Good morning.
Good morning.
It's good to be with you this beautiful Labor Day weekend. I think we've had perfect weather, to say the least. So a good way as we start preparing for the fall season. Peace of mind has a lot to do with living in the present. And living in the present is a pretty simple concept. At times, though, it is a little bit harder to apply it than it actually is to understand what it is about. We live in a time when we are caught up wondering why certain things happened in the past and whether events could have been different. I'm sure many of us at one time or another replayed certain events in our life again and again and again. It was almost like that comment, a broken record, or a tape recording that is stuck. Or we might also find ourselves living in the future. When we find ourselves living in the future, we are concerned about events that either have not happened or may very well never happen. Think about it. Sometimes if you're working and your boss says, I want to see you at 2 o'clock on Tuesday, you might start awfulizing. Oh, I'm going to be fired. I better start looking for another job. We place ourselves in the future. We are concerned about something that probably, to be honest with you, is not even going to happen. But at times, people do this. They either live in the past or they live in the future. And I think the thing that's important to keep in mind is that when we do live in either the past or we live in the future, we are not living life to its fullest. Here's a pop quiz. Where can only life be lived at?
In the now.
In the now, in the present. And that is something that it is important for us to remember. As a result, our peace of mind has been taken away from us if we are not living in the present. In our message this morning, we will consider the consequences of living in the past. By living in the past, we hold on to blame and lack of forgiveness. Secondly, we will be talking about living in the future, that it is not uncommon for people also to live in the future. And there are times all of us have a daydream during the time of during a part of the day, and we're not fully present. But we're not really just talking about that. We're talking about worrying about the future, thinking about what the future may hold for us. And to be quite honest, it does us no good. Because again, there's only one place that we can live. And that's right here in the present moment. Or as Eckhart Tolle talks about, living in the now. Today's message will also look at practices that will keep us firmly anchored in the present. Finally, we'll discuss a life of living in the present, because by being in the present, we'll experience a life of joy and happiness. So let's break these three types of living down a little bit. The first is actually living in the past. And there are many reasons people choose to live in the past. One of those reasons is that many people believe the past is a good indicator of what one's future will look like. Actually, most studies indicate that one's past is really no indication of what your future will look like. It's only by focusing on the past that we bring the past both into the present and possibly into the future as well. This fails to take into consideration that we are co-creators of our life with God. Sometimes people do not want to take responsibility for co-creating their life. And because they do not want to create a great life for themselves and their loved ones, they believe they are caught up in this endless cycle of whatever has happened in the past to continue occurring throughout their life. So living in the past allows us not to take responsibility for what a great life would look like. Because once we make that decision to live a great life, then we have taken the first step on that path to a life that will only produce good. At times, we also hear people talk about the good old days. I know my father, when he was alive, used to talk about the good old days. And even now, a lot of times I'm fascinated by the Depression and World War II era, and looking at the photographs of that era and reading some of the histories of that era. And I ask myself, was that really the good old days? I think a lot of our parents and grandparents that lived during that time might disagree that they were necessarily the good old days. While there's nothing wrong about seeing the good in the past, we cannot use it as an excuse to help to create a world that works for everyone. While even one person is suffering from poverty, inequality, or disease, we are not fully expressing our wholeness. Living in the past also keeps us from doing so. One of the biggest challenges that comes from living in the past is the difficulty some experience in letting go. There's another easy concept, but it's also a concept that can be challenging for people many times. In a larger form, letting go is a type of forgiveness. Many of us have things that have occurred in our lives that require forgiveness, and that includes forgiving ourselves. Some of us may have gone through a divorce, lost a job, or might have to forgive God for the loss of a loved one. Our way shower Jesus often spoke of the importance of forgiveness, and I'm going to share what Jesus said at Matthew 18 and verses 21 and 22. And there, Jesus is interacting with Peter. Then Peter came up and said to him, "Lord, how often shall my brother sin against me and I forgive him? As many as 7 times?" Jesus said to him, "I do not say to you 7 times, but 70 times 7. And I think we can safely say that Jesus was not speaking literally, where we multiply those figures together, but Jesus was basically saying we constantly need to forgive. We need to forgive every single day that we're alive. How can we stop living in the past? Instead of blaming others for things that have occurred in the past, we can be grateful for what they did bring to our lives. Think about someone in your life that maybe you had a less than positive experience with. Did you learn something from that person? If the answer is yes, then be grateful for what that person brought to your life. Sometimes we hear about people that are unhappy with a former marriage mate, but it's important to be honest with oneself. Sometimes people are meant to be together forever, and sometimes people are meant to be together for a period of time. And during that period of time, we experience blessings from that relationship. And that's what we need to focus on when we think of the concepts of letting go and on forgiveness. Also, when we face challenging situations and challenging people, they help to create within us great strengths that otherwise we would not have had. The people that teach us the most are not the people that we get along with all the time and hit it off with real well. The people we learn the most from is those that are challenging for us. We can also remind ourselves that we cannot create better things in our life without releasing that which no longer serves us. In Unity, we often talk about the 12 powers that are inherent in each human. One of those 12 powers is sometimes referred to as either release or elimination. It is a natural part of life that we need to let go of our issues from the past. It can result in us totally living in the present because we cannot totally be in the present unless we let go of those things that are acting as blocks to the life that we deserve. The second area we're going to talk about this morning is living in the future. While it is fine to have a vision for what we would like our life to be like, we can often get caught up with planning for a future while at the same time not being fully in the present. This may manifest in practices like daydreaming and endlessly planning for the future and talking about how life will be one day. It's interesting, though, that when one lives this way, one day never occurs. We constantly are planning. Oh, we'll do this tomorrow. I'm going to lose those 10 pounds in the next 2 months. Or I'm going to buy that next house in the next 6 months. But when that time comes, nothing has actually occurred. Why? Because we are planning, but we're not taking action in the present that will help us to manifest those things that we want in our life. A problem with living in the future is that we're not fully engaged in doing the things necessary for a great future. In a sense, living in the future amounts to living in our heads. A good example in the Bible that illustrates both living in one's head and in the future can be found in Luke 10:38 through 42. It's a gospel account that's familiar to most people. Now as they went on their way, he entered a village, speaking of Jesus, and a woman named Martha received him into her house. And she had a sister called Mary who sat at the Lord's feet and listened to his teaching. But Martha was distracted with much serving, and she went to him and said, Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me to serve alone? Tell her then to help me. But the Lord answered her, Martha, Martha, you are anxious and troubled about many things. One thing is needful. Mary has chosen the good portion, which shall not be taken away from her. So what was Martha doing? She was worried about preparing dinner. She was worried about getting the house prepared. She was planning for the hours ahead, while her sister was more focused on being with Jesus in the present moment and listening to his teachings and taking in what he said and learning from that. We can be the same way. We can really savor every moment that we're experiencing. We take it in like a fine, cool drink or a fine glass of wine. We just take it in and we enjoy it. As Jesus pointed out, Martha was living in the future and worried about her preparations. And at times we can be the same way too. By living in the future, we can also engage in a lot of awfulizing, which I had mentioned at the beginning of my message. We imagine all types of catastrophes befalling us on our journeys. As a result, we never get to really enjoy our life right now. Even as Jesus indicated in other parts of the Bible, every day has its own concerns. And Jesus also said it's important for us to let those concerns be there for the following day. We're not in the next day yet. We're not in next week yet or next month. We're in the present moment, and that is what we need to focus our attention on. Actually, when we worry too much about the future, we are exercising what we can call faith in the reverse. Faith in reverse is when we have faith or a belief that all kinds of negative things are going to happen to us. So faith is not only used in a way to bring about positive things in our life, it can be used to actually believe that all kind of awful catastrophes are going to befall us somewhere down the road. And as I indicated, very seldom do many of these negative events come true anyway. And I know in the past, I always would be concerned about some deadline or some meeting. Very seldom actually did anything negative come from those. So I was wasting a lot of time. I was spinning my wheels, worrying about things that were not going to happen. Nevertheless, if our feelings are too intense we can bring those things into our life if we keep focusing on those negative things as well. It is almost like we are praying for these things to come into our life, because the emotion that is dominating us is the emotion of fear. How do we stop living in the future rather than the present? It is important to remind ourselves that the future occurs one moment at a time. So every moment that I pause, or every time one word comes out of my mouth, is the present moment. And everything that I have said in the last 15 minutes or so is now in the past. And everything that I have not said is in the future. So what is important to realize is there's only one place we can live at. And that one place is in the now. It's in the present moment. When we do so, we assure ourselves of a happy and successful life, and we enjoy what we are experiencing right now, and letting tomorrow and next week and next month and next year take care of itself. The final area we're going to get into this morning is living in the present. And I try to listen to those in the congregation that sort of recommend things to talk about, and I have to give Happy a lot of credit for this message, because he's so engaged with living in the moment, living in the now. And yet it is so important that we do so. Again, it is a simple concept, but due to our busy mind, there are times when we choose to live in the past or the future. Life is only being truly lived when we are grounded in the now. As author Eckhart Tolle writes, realize deeply that the present moment is all you ever have. That's all we ever have. One moment to the next moment to the next moment. When you think about it, we're progressing slowly through the now. We're progressing slowly through the present moment. The past is gone and the future is yet to come. The now is all we have. It is only by living in the present that we can truly have happiness and joy. Unhappiness is not a result of the situation we are experiencing. Rather, unhappiness is connected with our thoughts about the situation we have encountered. So, that type of negative emotion comes from our thinking. If we change our thinking, we change our life. If we focus on the good that we have in our life, we have a foundation to build a life of joy. Letting go is the first step towards being in the present moment. When confronted with situations we do not find to be pleasant, we must even say yes to experiencing those moments that are less than optimal in our life. We have something to learn from every situation that comes our way. Resistance to the lessons being offered us will only result in a challenging situation to linger. The Bible indicates what will keep us in the present moment. And I'm going to read from Proverbs 12 and verse 20. Deceit is in the heart of those who devise evil, but those who plan good have joy. So, when we focus on the good in life, we will be anchored in the present moment. Inner peace is part of the consciousness that allows us to fully enjoy life in the now. Again, going back to a piece of advice from author Eckhart Tolle, and I found this kind of profound as I was preparing the message for today. Eckhart writes, always say yes to the present moment. What could be more futile, more insane than to create inner resistance to what already is? What could be more insane than to oppose life itself, which is now and always now? Surrender to what is. Say yes to life. and see how life suddenly starts working for you rather than against you. Living in the past or future has no benefit. Life is entirely lived in the now or in the present. By living in the present, we go with the flow of life. We are resisting that flow when we attempt to live either in the past or in the future. As we do, as we live in the present, the blessings of this now moment will be with us every day of our own life. Namaste. Exhaling away any concerns that you may be experiencing in this moment. And you want to make sure your feet are firmly planted on the floor in front of you as you're grounded in Mother Earth. If you haven't done so already, you may want to gently close your eyes. Fully present in this moment, I live in a continual blessing. I may catch myself regretting the past or at times worrying about the future. Yet I know such thoughts are not helpful to me. In truth, the present moment is all there is. So I choose to live fully in the now. I begin by appreciating what is present in my life right now. My family, my friends, my work, the beauty of nature and life. I realize my thoughts and actions have brought me to this moment and to its many blessings. The seeds I planted in the past through my thoughts and prayers have come to fruition. Now I plant new seeds of positive possibilities. I sow ideas of happiness, abundance, and love. I cultivate feelings of joy, prosperity, and appreciation. As I live fully in the present moment, I am continually blessed. I am at peace in the present moment. At times, I may feel uncertain or anxious about the direction of my life. Am I doing the right thing? Am I accurately interpreting the guidance of Spirit? When that happens, I do what brings me peace. I rest in the silence and feel the wholeness of each and every moment. How relieved and at peace I am right now. I've touched the peace that surpasses all understanding. I am in touch with the truth during my moments in the silence. Right where I am is right where I am meant to be. My path is valid and my mission is noble. I clearly know the changes I need to make and the right timing for each of them. I have faith in Spirit's ever-present guidance. I am at peace in this present moment. Now we will enter into a few moments of silence.